I'm here to talk about the latest Riverside album called Love, Fear and the Time Machine. Now, if you don't like Riverside, stop this video and get out. Actually, you can stay even if you don't like Riverside. I really want you to watch this video. So, back in June 2015, I traveled to Poland because I wanted to see one of my favorite bands that, as you may know, is Dream Theater. They were headlining the Metal Hammer Festival, the Progressive Edition. And so yeah, I went there, I had a great time, but I was quite surprised that a lot of the bands that came on before Dream Theater were all unknown to me. I had no idea who these guys were, but I was really surprised by especially one band called Riverside. Yes, you guessed it. And the reason for that is because I was so mesmerized by their song quality, the whole stage performance, but mainly the songs were so good, and songs brought me back to a lot of bands that I grew up listening to. A lot of influences from Deep Purple, Pink Floyd, Opeth, Tool, Porcupine Tree, to name just a few. So I was really interested by these guys so much that the day after I went to the record shop to get all their albums. Yeah, that's how much of a fan I am. So that's what I did, and yeah, for the next weeks I started listening to the records from start to end, and I think I'm quite qualified to talk about this band. The first three records are great masterpieces, and those are Out of Myself, Second Life Syndrome and Rapid Eye Movement. Those three records sound quite similar in terms of vibe, in terms of sound, lyrical content, merging the heavy, more dark progressive side of the band with the more mellow, atmospheric parts. So those elements blend in so well in those three records that it's really hard not to like these guys. And then the fourth album, maybe one of my favorites, Anno Domini, High Definition, really weird name, but the record itself is amazing. It sounds very heavy, the heaviest they've ever been, and a lot of people disregard that album as maybe the weakest, and I don't really know why, because for me that album represents it represents all the elements that I love about this band. It's a lot more geared towards the heavier side, which is great. Heavy, progressive, I'll buy it. And then we have the fifth album from 2013 called Shrine of New Generation Slaves, which again I thought it was another great masterpiece, but for different reasons, because this one goes back to basics a bit, again merging the best of both worlds, the heavy and the more mellow side. A lot of influences found in this record, very 70s, very sometimes 80s, sometimes 90s heavy. It's just, this band really takes you through a very emotional journey, especially if you are a fan of a huge spectrum of music. You go from the 70s till the late 2000s. This band is really for you. And then fast forward to 2015, we have the new album called Love, Fear and the Time Machine. And to be honest, when I first heard the single called Discard Your Fear, I was a bit disappointed, because even though I thought the songwriting was good, it wasn't that memorable. I quite like the chorus of that song, but the whole vibe is very bland, and I thought the production was a bit bland as well, so I didn't think it was quite memorable. and I really hope that the album, I mean, I really hope that single wasn't a good representation of what the album was going to be. So yeah, when I received my copy of the album, which is here and is also signed, when I received the copy, I gave this a lot of spins, a lot of spins. I can't remember how many times I've listened to this record now. And to be honest, again, I was a bit disappointed with it because I was expecting something different. I was expecting more, stuff in the vein of, the first records, even the last one, because for me the last one was one of the strongest by far. So hearing this album for the first few times was a bit disappointing. But then, when you have albums that you really, really want to like because you love the band, then you put yourself, to listen to it even more times, to really pay more attention to details that really make this album shine through. So that's what I did. I sat down and, I was dedicated to listening to this. And I think, in the end it paid off. This album, it is very, very, very beautiful. I don't want to say it's great in the sense of, rock majesty, greatness. This is more a beautiful affair. This is a beautiful record full of great songwriting, layers of captivating music. But it is quite light, it's not heavy at all. It is very emotional, melodic, atmospheric. I think this album is going to appeal to more people, it's going to appeal to the masses. If that's what the band tried to do, they're going to be quite successful. They're going to gain a lot of new fans with this new one. Because again, I think my apprehension towards this record came from a place of, I really want my Riverside to sound this way. All those elements that made me fall in love with the band are not here. So that's why, my apprehension kind of erupted. But trying to be a bit more universal, trying to see the bigger picture, this album is spectacular. It is really, really spectacular. And, for anyone approaching this band from this record, they're just gonna be so pleased with it because, this, you don't have to know anything about Riverside or about rock in general in order to like this record, as opposed to maybe the other ones where you have to know a bit more of the influences these guys are coming from. So yeah, talking about the songs, first one, Lost, Why Should I Be Frightened by Hats, is maybe one of the best and strongest openers. They had beautiful lyrics, guitar work, drum work. The second song, Under the Pillow, again, great stuff, amazing. It took me a while to get into this song, but eventually I did. Third one, called Addicted, maybe not my thing, maybe one of the weakest ones in the album. Sounds very poppy, very, very, very different to what Riverside is about for me. And then we have Caterpillar and the Vile Wire, a decent track, not my favorite, but again, I would go back to it, I would revisit it in the future. Then we have Saturate Me, which has a very interesting opening, back to the all-time signatures of the past. Maybe this is the closest it gets, to their past with this album. It has this very, cool 7/8 drum part at the beginning, which is quite cool. And then we have songs like Afloat, again, an okay track, nothing special. But it actually it's not bad at all, I mean. And then we have Discard Your Fear, the first single, which I talked about before. Again, not a bad song, but nowhere near my favorites on this record. And then we have one of the most interesting ones called Towards the Blue Horizon. And this one is quite interesting because it showcases the best of both worlds. The mellow, more atmospheric side, I think when this song kicks in, it makes you feel like this is going to be maybe the more the quietest, most chilled out song from Riverside. But halfway through, you are faced with this kind of a demon sounding part, which is quite reminiscent to Deliverance from Opeth. I'm talking about the song, not the album. And it is very, very reminiscent of that. That's the first song that I thought of when listening to that part on this track. And it goes back to mellow again, and I think it goes along with the lyrical content, if I'm not wrong. So yeah, this is a very interesting track towards Blue Horizon. And then we have maybe my favorites in the whole record, which happens to be an acoustic number, surprisingly, and that is Time Travelers. Man, this song is so amazing. You know, first time I've heard it, I imagine myself strolling down a rainy forest with the phones on and listening to this, and just, you know, feeling in one of the most spiritual places on earth. This is so beautiful. And also the lyrics talk about, you know, people flying their homelands, looking for better places to live, and, you know, remembering what it was 30 years ago and imagining that is the now. You know, very, very melancholic song, so beautiful. If I had to recommend a single song from this record, it's definitely Time Travelers. So please stop this video and go and check that out. And then we have the last track called Found the Unexpected Flow of Searching. Now this is a great closing track. You know, very mellow again, beautiful piano intro, beautiful lyrics, you know, very uplifting. I think the whole vibe of this album is quite uplifting, very positive, you know, as opposed to the previous records. So again, you know, this is a very contradictory review. I'm I'm disappointed and excited about this record because it doesn't have the elements I love from the band, but I cannot deny that this is a very, very, very beautiful album. It is very emotional. If you have the chance to check these guys out, if you don't like heavy music, if you don't like heavy rock, maybe you should start listening to this band by this album, because, you know, you're definitely gonna love it. Definitely gonna love it. It's so beautiful. It's so similar to, you know, it has a lot of elements from bands that I mentioned before. It sounds very reminiscent to the latest Steven Wilson material, and it sounds like Opeth at times. Catatonia comes to mind as well, you know, in the most chilled out phase of their career. And actually the second record of this album is quite different. You know, it's got 5 songs, nothing really special, very different. You know, they're used to releasing bonus discs that are just made out of, you know, noises that happen to be really beautiful. You know, the second bonus disc is more like, you know, companion rather than anything that gives more substance to the record. It's not necessary to listen to the second at all. If you do, great, you're gonna enjoy it, but again, nothing really special. So yeah, guys, I highly recommend this album. It's extremely beautiful, very different. So I really want these guys to keep producing quality material as this. But please, guys, release more heavier stuff in the future, because I'm gonna be a lot happier.